So the BIGME B751C is a 7-inch color e-reader from Bigme that cost about $280. It has a color e-reader display. It also comes with a case as well as a pen that you can use for note-taking. But is this any good? Let's find out. So first things first, let's talk about the build quality on this tablet. This is a 7-inch tablet and it does have a plastic back and a plastic body. So that is something that you will have to be aware of because this is a cheaper tablet. It's about $280 US. Plastic back, it's not super high quality, but as you can see, there's a lot of fingerprints that gather on the back of the tablet. You do have a nice little grippy surface here for you to grip so that when you're holding your book, for example, you can hold it like this and you can grip it fairly well. So it doesn't feel the best because it is plastic, but the build quality I think is solid enough. It does have a metal band running around it though, and on the metal band on the sides of the tablet, you actually get your speaker grill over here. You get a USB charging port here, a USB-C, as well as an LED indicator. And then on this side, you also get a microphone port as well as a SD card slot. And on this side, there is nothing here, just a metal band. And on this side, you get the power button. So on this side, you have a bigger bezel so that you can hold onto it when you're reading a book fairly easily. If the bezels were too small, for example, right here, it would be fairly difficult to hold. So the big bezel is necessary on one side for it to be a easy to use e-reader. You also get these two buttons here. These two buttons are fairly clicky. I'm going to shut up so that you can listen to how clicky it sounds. They are fairly easy to press. I am not super confident. I've only used this for about a week, but I'm not super confident that these buttons will stay clicky and tacky for a long time because at least I'm using it to scroll and to turn pages on books. So there's that. The buttons can also be difficult to press if you press it right in the middle like this. It requires quite a bit of force, but if you press it on the side like this, on the top or the bottom, for example, like that, then you're not pressing the entire button down, then it's a little bit easier to press down. It doesn't register all the time if you don't press it right in the middle, but it registers 95% of the time, so that's good enough for me. You also get a small black bezel around the entire screen as well, but I think that's just a function of the e-ink display. I don't think they can make it bezel-less because then it'll cost even more money. The last thing I'll talk about is the weight of the tablet. This tablet is fairly light. It's quite easy to hold with one hand, so I don't have any complaints about that. So overall, the build quality is passable. It's not great. You don't get a metal back. It is a plastic back. You do get metal bands on the side of the tablet, but plastic back, it does keep the weight down. So good enough for me. Should be good enough for most people as well, especially if you're looking for a cheap color e-ink tablet. So next we're going to talk about the e-ink display. So this does have a black and white resolution of about 1600 by 1200, I believe, and then a color resolution which is quite a bit lower. I think it's 800 by 600, which is a much lower resolution. So the display is going to be the major portion of the review. So look at this picture here. This is the screensaver that I chose, and there's a reason why I chose this because it looks the best on this tablet. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to turn on the tablet and I'm going to go change the screensaver, and I'll show you what it looks like. So this is another example. This is Bleach, and it also looks okay because as you can see, I chose a picture that is mostly black with a little bit of orange and mostly white and a little bit of red on the mask over here. So the colors right now look okay, and I'll tell you the reason why, because when you use it for manga, not so good, and there's a reason for that. And again, for example, you look at this picture of Goku, the colors are a little bit faded, so that's I was kind of expecting that, but the colors are a little bit faded. I'm going to pull up the picture on my phone to show you what these look like there. Just so I give you an apples to apples comparison of what this looks like compared to a traditional LCD display, that's the original picture. So as you can see, that's a very big difference. Look how muted the colors are. And don't forget that this is the best that this screen can do. This is not a fault of the tablet. It's just an issue with the technology. The technology is just not there. So let me go ahead and change it to another picture. We'll change it back to Naruto, and we'll go back. Look at the difference in colors between these two pictures. You have the muted colors on this one compared to the actual picture on what you see on an LCD display. Again, technology, not a fault of the tablet. That's just a technology that you have to deal with any tablet that you pick, not just this one. And finally, we'll go here. And that's what the picture looks like over there. So as you can see, there's actually the orange is so much more vibrant, the red is so much more vibrant, the black, white, etc. So with regards to e-ink, e-ink does have its downsides, and one of them is color, because color is not there yet, at least in my opinion. So I would say that I'm going to show you a couple more things just to show you what the e-ink color looks like compared to LCD, and the downsides and the upsides of this display. But let's go through this thing systematically, and I'll show you everything on the e-ink display. So first things first, the e-ink display here, the backlight is not on, so I'll show you right now. This is the backlight. So I'll turn the backlight all the way up, but you almost won't be able to tell a difference because my studio light is right here and it's super duper bright. So this looks probably almost as good as you can get it. Now I'm going to show you in a moment, but essentially how this thing performs in different lighting conditions. So first is sunny. Obviously, you're going to see here that it's super sunny, and it looks just absolutely amazing, and it's perfect to read in, absolutely perfect. Now this condition is it's sunny outside, but you're in a shade. Now, even though you're in a shade, it still is an absolute dream to use to read, so I have absolutely no problems with that at all. Now this next condition is no backlight, but you are actually indoors. So I am right by the window, so I still have lots and lots of natural light coming in. Still very readable. It still looks very, very good, easy to read for books or whatever you might have it. So no problems there. Now I am indoors, but I'm away from the window. So now that I'm away from the window, you can see that it's more muted. The paper on the back is kind of yellow, not yellowish, it's darkish. So the contrast is not so high. So as a result, it's more difficult to read. So it's around this stage where you probably want to turn on your backlight. And now I've turned off all the lights here. So I'm going to turn the backlight all the way up. And you can see that it's quite a decent backlight. You can choose the temperature of the backlight as well. For example, I can turn the nighttime all the way down and it becomes super yellow. I can turn the nighttime one all the way up, and then I turn the daytime one all the way down, and now it's super blue. I personally like this color better to look at, the blue, more bluish light, but I turn both on all the way, mostly so that it is as bright as possible. So this backlight here it's fairly even. You can see that around the edges the backlight is a little bit more brighter, and it's very slightly darker right in the middle, but it's almost imperceptible, so I don't think you'll have an issue with this. And the backlight gets plenty bright, so this thing can be read in any conditions. The backlight does have a downside, and that would be the battery life, which we will talk about later. But for now, this is a quick showcase of the backlight and the non-backlight reading capabilities. So first, we're going to talk about black and white manga or black and white comics, and this is where I think this device shines the best. You're essentially reading off of a paper display, black and white, absolutely amazing. There is no better experience on compared to an e-ink device. And the only thing that is, quote unquote better would be a paper device, like an actual paper. But as you can see, it looks very, very good. So I have absolutely no complaints. I think that reading a book and reading black and white manga is the two best use cases for this device. The only thing I would say though is that the size of the device, 7 inches, is like a tiny bit too small, just very slightly too small for manga. I think 8-inch would be perfect, but 8-inch would also bump your price up quite a bit as well. So yeah, as you can see, the manga looks very, very good. I'm going to switch it to Boku no Hero Academia. So this one, the art is a little bit more, there's a little bit less black, so it's a little bit whiter, but still very, very good. No complaints about that. It looks very nice. Actually, I'm going the wrong way. But yes, you can also see that the buttons work fairly well also. So black and white is the best use case for this. Now I'm going to show you color, and I'm going to compare it to the tablet. Alright, so I've pulled up a page from a manga called Tales of Demons and Gods, and this is full color, and I'm going to show you what it looks like compared to a LCD display as well. So at first glance, you might think, oh, you know what, the e-ink display here, it looks pretty decent. It's just that the contrast is not very good. The colors are muted. So for example, I'm going to zoom in right here to this guy's hand. And you can see that the gradients are not very smooth. Each of the gradients seem to take one color and then it abruptly transitions to another color and abruptly transitions to another one as well. Whereas for this one, it kind of goes a little bit smoother all the way to the hand. So the two biggest problems with regards to the e-ink color is first is the contrast. The colors are quite muted compared to an LCD display, and the other issue is that it cannot deal with gradients and certain colors, and it starts giving you rainbow striping, or the colors start showing very abruptly and it's not a smooth transition. So will I read color comics on this? I will not. I'm going to show you another, it's not an issue with e-ink, but what it is an issue is there are a lot of manga that are designed for cell phones, right? So for example, Solo Leveling, very, very popular. Designed for cell phones, right? It's designed for a cell phone that is this size. So I'm just going to show you that quickly. Now this is an example. So it's not really a fault of e-ink, not really a fault of the tablet, just the way the manga or manhwa was designed. For example, you can see that it's very readable on a cell phone, right? The words are nice and big. Everything is designed for a 5-inch cell phone, but then when you look at it over here, your tablet is way too wide. So then it becomes way too big. And then if you zoom out like this, for example, then what's the point? You might as well read on the book or on your phone. Colors, the same issue. The colors here are muted compared to what you have on the phone. The other thing I forgot to tell you as well is when you turn the backlight off, you'll see that there is a noticeable difference with regards to color. So that's what it looks like without the backlight. You turn on the backlight completely, maximum, and you can see the colors look a little bit better. But they still look really muted compared to an LCD display, so still not good enough for manga, or color manga, at least color comics, but good enough for black and white. The last thing I want to show you are the various settings you can do with the e-ink display. You actually have 5 refresh rates. So first you have HD 256, which actually reduces the amount of colors you have, so then all your colors become a little bit more dotted. So I'm just going to zoom in with the camera here. You can see that the colors here look a little bit more dotted. The refresh rate though is not amazing, but you can see the colors look a little bit deeper, but also they become less complex. You can change it to HD, and the HD is the setting I use the most when I'm reading, let's say, manga. So for example, if I look at this, it looks the best in this one over here. And then there's also Regal. Now if you choose Regal, you notice that the color striations are actually gone from this guy's jacket over here. So you can see that the color striations are gone. It's only when the refresh rate is too fast do you get those color striations. But you can also see that the refresh rate is the absolute slowest in here. So you can see how slow it is. It almost looks like a old first gen Kindle, but then your picture quality does become the best as well. It doesn't fix your the mutedness of the colors. I'm just going to reopen the tablet here. You can see that the colors are still really muted. They're just a little bit better in the Regal mode, but in my opinion, still not good enough for color manga. So stick with black and white, stick with reading books on this, at least in my opinion. Now we have normal, which we have been in most of the time, and it's here where you get some of the striations. And it's in here. I'm going to open up a web browser and I'll show you the scrolling speed. So you can see that that's slow, but if you turn it to extreme, you can see that it's much faster. It's almost like a slow phone. So that's actually quite good. But this is also where you get the least quality in terms of the screen. It refreshes really fast, but then everything looks slightly worse. So I almost never use extreme, unfortunately, but that's what it is right now. So the other thing I want to show you as well is that within the e-ink center, you actually get a couple of things that you can change. For example, you can do anti-shake, you can do auto clean, which actually cleans up the e-ink because it leaves quite a bit of a remnant. When you refresh, you also have a full refresh frequency that you can change all the way to, let's say, 50. So then it'll be super duper fast, or you can change it all the way down to 0. You can also do color mode, which is invalid in fast and extreme mode. But if you're going into HD, you can actually change the colors a little bit and it'll change these settings over here. So if I go back to HD, I can change it to magazine. Oh, that's super slow. See that? Comic or custom. Here's an example. See right here, right around where this guy's pants are, you can see in the background there's still some words left over. And those words are left over from over here. Magazine, comic, custom. So if you want to clean that up, what you actually do is you just swipe up like this and it redraws everything for you. Now I'm going to go back and show you what we were originally talking about, which is going to be the color modes. So if I went to comic, for example, you can see that it tries to make everything a little bit richer, a little bit better, but the differences are just not big. Compared to what you have in the LCD display, it just doesn't work. Like, it doesn't matter how high you do vividness, brightness, just look at the LCD and then look at this. It doesn't even matter. So this is about as best the LCD or the e-ink can look, and I'm going to turn it down to the worst. So if I do this and I go to, let's say, extreme, now it's going to look the absolute worst. Can you see that big a difference? There's not much. Like, there's a little bit of a difference, but it's really not great. So all right, so now that we've talked about the screen, the next thing I'm going to talk about is the sound. So not great. Don't use these for speakers. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is battery life, and this is going to be quite a big portion of the e-ink tablet, because battery life is definitely something that we have to talk about. This has a 2300 milliamp hour battery, which is not big at all, unfortunately. And unlike the Kindles and Kobos that you get, where you get 2-3 week battery life, you're not going to get that here, unfortunately. I have found that even in power save mode, which I've been using it in power save the entire time, it gets maybe a week of battery life if you're using it without the backlight, right? If you're using it, I don't know, 3 hours a day to read comics or books, yeah, you can get about a week. If you do turn on the backlight, for example, you turn on the backlight all the way and you start using it for, also for books and comics and even web browsing, your battery life drops to like 3 days, maybe 4. So not great for Kindle style e-ink displays at all, but it's definitely something you have to be aware of. So if you're going to go for a e-ink device, this does not have good battery life, unfortunately. I think one of the reasons is because it is cheaper. So the 23, so they couldn't pay to put a bigger battery in here. They put a 2300 milliamp hour battery, but that is something that I have accepted as part of the price that I pay. So yeah, battery life is not great here. The last thing I'll talk about is the software. So this device here, it runs Android, and it runs Android 11, so 1 generation old. And this is the settings page of the Android tablet. I'm going to turn that off. I don't know why that popped up. I think because I touched something. It has a lot of the regular Android settings that you would choose. I'm going to turn the backlight off. It has a lot of those that you can choose. There are a couple of things that you cannot do. You cannot access developer options. There's a couple of other things you can't do. It's a very modified version of Android. For example, this is what the home screen looks like. You can change the home screen to a couple of things you like. There are a bunch of pre-installed apps that you cannot get rid of. For example, WPS Office Lite. You can't get rid of that. A couple of other things you cannot get rid of, unfortunately. So, but it is a full-fledged Android tablet, and I tried to install a couple of things. You can see I installed Google Play Books. I installed the Kindle because they had a Chinese Kindle version there. I was kind of sketched out by it. I installed Gboard. I installed eInk Bro, which is a web browser. ChatGPT is included, and you cannot uninstall it. I installed Bible. I installed Stay Focus, and I don't remember if I installed OneDrive, but there's that. So not much to write home about with regards to the software. The software is fairly standard. Performance is okay. 4 gigs of RAM, which is, I think, more than enough for an Android tablet. Doesn't really lag because the screen itself is the main bottleneck for software on this. So not much else to talk about. It did give me a little bit of problems at first, because when I was running Google Play Books and I was excited to read, I had issues. So I had issues, for example, I'm going to show you what the issues I had were. So I'm going to turn the DPI up to 3. Oh, it fixed it. Anyway, so the original DPI was 300, and it was giving me issues where the text was off the screen and all that stuff. But Bigme's customer support is actually super duper good. I'm very, very impressed with their customer support, because they were able to fix the issue in like 2 days, and they rolled out a new software update that fixed it. So Bigme customer support, big thumbs up. They are very, very helpful and very, very good at what they do. So before I talk about the pen capabilities, these buttons here do work very well with almost every app. So you can see that I'm using Google Play Books, and I can switch the pages with the buttons. That being said, the one thing that I'm not happy about is that if I flip it over and I want to, read this on the right side, to hold it on the with my right hand, it doesn't invert the buttons. So the button placement stays the same. You got to use the same button. So now instead of pressing down for next, you got to press up for next, which is kind of annoying. So I definitely don't like that, but I think that's just, I don't think they'll fix that, because that's not really an issue. But that's just something to be aware of. Just a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. There's that. So this is the included pen. It runs off a quad A battery, and I was not expecting good things with the note taking. And to be fair, it's not the greatest, but it's a lot better than what I was expecting. So I was expecting it to be horrible. For example, if I was using it on a tablet without a like a Wacom layer, like a note taking layer, but it's actually quite fast. So watch this. That's not bad for a tablet without a Wacom layer. So I'm very, very impressed. This is still not the best device for note taking. First of all, the screen's way too small. Second of all, this note taking app doesn't have a lot of functionality. For example, if I can switch to the brush mode and say Z Reviews Tech, that was pretty fast. That was not bad at all. There is a really big issue with this though, and that would be there's no palm rejection. So if I'm writing like this and I'm going to touch the screen with my pinky. When I do this, it actually touches the screen and it doesn't have palm rejection. So if I do that, it actually touches other things. So it's a little bit annoying, but I'm not expecting much from the note-taking portion, but it's good in a pinch, right? So if you have something that is that you need to write down quickly, you can just go to the note-taking app and just, write down, go get milk. Boom, done. So note-taking has pleasantly surprised me. It's still not great, but it's a lot better than I was expecting. Finally, let's talk about the cover. So the cover here is actually included as well, and the cover is actually quite nice. It has an auto off functionality when you put the tablet in, and you close it like that, and the screen actually turns off. So I'm quite happy with it, but I'm not using it. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's best used when you're holding it like this, but when you add a case, it actually becomes bulkier and more difficult to hold. So even though the cover is nice, I'm never going to be using it. I have not been able to find a cheaper e-ink tablet than this with the newest Kaleido 3 technology. This is about $280 before a coupon, and if you check my link down below, you can actually get it for about 8% off, which bumps the price down to about $260, which is the cheapest I can find. And it comes with accessories, right? It comes with this right here, and it comes with a pen. So all that is actually quite enticing, but I'm going to walk you through all the pros and all the cons of this device. This thing's cheap. $280, $260 after a discount for a e-ink 7-inch e-ink display with Google Play, because that is not free, and color, quite a good price. If you don't want to be locked into a specific platform, you buy a Kindle, you can only use Kindle. You buy a Kobo, you can only use Kobo. With this, you can be platform agnostic and you can do whatever you want. You can read any manga, you can read any comic, you can install Kindle, you can install Kobo, you can install the library app, which I did as well. Actually, I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. I did reformat this because there was issues with Google Play Books. You can install Google Play Books. You can do absolutely anything you want, and there's a price for that, right? So if you want to get locked into Kindle or Kobo, you pay a little bit less up front, but then you're locked into that ecosystem. But here, you are not. Another upside, it is color, but I will say right off the bat that color is going to be a downside of this device when I go through all the downsides. Upside, there's color. So if you want color, knowing all the caveats, there you have it. Here are the downsides. So the downside is that the color isn't good, right? So the color technology just isn't there yet. That's the first downside. The second downside is the battery life is also not as good as what you would get on a Kindle or a Kobo. So that's the second downside. For me, those are the two biggest downsides of this device. So do I recommend this device? It's kind of a yes and a no. I would recommend you get the BIGME B751 non-color version. It'll save you about $20-30 because you can still apply that same coupon code and you can get an even cheaper price. I would actually recommend you get the BIGME B751 without color. Saves you a couple of bucks. And you've seen what the color can do. I'm assuming most of you won't want the color because the color just isn't there yet. But if you do, links are down below. Let me know what you think about this e-ink device, and I'll see you guys in the next one.